Hey folks, welcome into NFL Daily. I'm Cam Rogers. That guy right there is Tom Downey. We are taking you through all of the latest news and rumors surrounding the National Football League. It's been a busy day, Tom. A news and rumor number one here. Sua Cravens, is he headed to Denver?
You know, we're in the silly season of the NFL, but this one seems a little bit likely. We're giving it 3 Goodell heads. We'll explain what that means here in a little bit, but Ian Rappaport said that Cravens' most likely landing spot is the Denver Broncos. That's good enough for me to give it 3 heads on this one. And we know that the Redskins are trying to trade Sua Cravens. He didn't play last year. Once the return was reinstated after he kind of a weird situation last year in general. There was the report after the year ended that he's now been cleared from post-concussion syndrome, medically cleared, but there were some reports during the year and when he had first quote-unquote retired/stepped away that he just didn't want to play football anymore. And in general, it sounded like the Redskins locker room didn't want to bring Cravens back in. Kind of got the vibe that they felt like that he quit on them. But he wants to play football again. It's going to have to be with a new team. Denver makes sense to me. Remember that they let go of TJ Ward. They don't really have the same type of hard-hitting safety, and that's what Cravens is, who's best as that box safety, maybe even as a dime linebacker.
All right, we expect the Denver Broncos to be very active during the free agency season. All right, folks, this is NFL Daily here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. I'm Cam Rogers. That's Tom Downey, and we are taking you through all of the news and rumors right now that are pertinent for all of you watching right now. Let's get into that rumor scale here. So you saw the few Goodell heads. What do those mean? 0 Goodell heads, fake news, nothing to it, don't believe it at all. 1 Goodell head, small shred of truth to the story. 2 Goodell heads, people are talking about a big-time rumor. 3 Goodell heads, more probable than not that it is true. And then 4 Goodell heads, fact news, it's a thing, it's happening. Let's get into news and rumor number 2. Odell Beckham Jr. Tom, does he want $20 million a year?
Oh, well, the people are most certainly talking here. And I actually believe this one as well. So once again, 3 heads on this rumor. This is coming from Mike Garofalo of NFL.com. Odell Beckham, the $20 million a year price tag is significant for a couple reasons. 1, highest paid receiver in the NFL. Antonio Brown makes $17 million a year. No one else is above him. And getting to $20 million would surpass Ndamukong Suh and would make him the highest non-paid quarterback in the NFL. I think OBJ wants to get paid in a big way. Doesn't surprise me at all that he's asking for this $20 million reportedly. And by the way, in theory, the Giants' next quarterback should be on a rookie contract, so they can maybe afford to pay Odell Beckham quarterback money, because that's what this is.
Well, and that begs this question here, Tom, because of course he wants wide receiver number 1 money here. Is Odell Beckham Jr. a top 3 wide receiver to begin with?
I mean, you're never going to throw Antonio Brown in there, and then it's a whole bunch of guys that are strong considerations, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, and so on. But if Odell Beckham's healthy, I mean, yeah, like we saw what he did when he's been healthy. He's absolutely incredible, so I do think he's a top 3 receiver. But I guess it's a different question as to whether or not you want to pay him $20 million a year. That's a lot for any wide receiver. Can you talk him down into maybe the $18 million range?
Throw in those reactions, folks. Give us a heart for yes, a like for no. As we transition now into note number 3 here, the Seahawks. Could be some changes out there in the Pacific Northwest. Are they shopping Earl Thomas and or Richard Sherman, Tom?
Look, 2 heads on this one. This is most certainly people are talking. And they've been talking for a little bit. And the Sherman part I absolutely believe, because this is not the first time we've heard it. The Seahawks were in a different tack than most NFL teams. Very open that, yeah, we were shopping Richard Sherman last year. We were listening to trade offers. We do that for all players. And it makes sense that they'll do that again this year because he has a massive cap hit coming off of a pretty significant injury, is in the last year of his deal. Makes sense to maybe, trade him. With that said, Cam, who really wants the $13 million Richard Sherman? It's 11 based on his base salary and coming off an injury. That seems like a bit too much and a bit too much risk there. And as for Earl Thomas, I could see them listening to offers, but I think it's going to be maybe a similar thing like last year, where they don't trade him because they say, yeah, he is the premier free safety in the NFL. We're not just going to give him away. You got to give us a significant draft pick and or player. And NFL teams know, hey, we also got to pay him a big chunk of money when his contract is up after this year. I think what might end up happening is Thomas stays, Sherman is not traded, but he could be cut on that end.
This story is really telling, Tom, because it kind of begs the question, are the Seahawks looking towards a rebuilding project? And we want to ask the people watching the program right now, is it time for the Seahawks to rebuild in general?
Well, not on the offensive side of the ball, because Russell Wilson's not old. He's not going anywhere. But you look at defense, and Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, or even Earl Thomas potentially as well. Those guys aren't exactly spring chickens.
Yeah.
They are getting a little bit up there in age, and we saw them overhaul their coaching staff with the coordinators, and maybe you could see them say, all right, defense, we got to make some sweeping changes here. We'll tweak everything here. We'll get out some of the old guys, bring in some youth, and keep those linebackers intact. But I kind of see why this is a question, and I think we'll know more as the offseason goes along. You could see Seattle make some significant changes to the personnel side of things.
Let's get to the Oakland Raiders. Do they want Trumaine Johnson? And, Tom, all the signals point to Trumaine Johnson testing the open waters in free agency.
Well, when they traded for Marcus Peters, it was kind of like, all right, Tremaine, thanks for stopping by,
See you later.
But you're gone. This one is very much firmly in the people are talking category when it comes to Trumaine Johnson. It was reported that he is the Raiders' top target at cornerback, and the last time they dipped into free agency for a cornerback didn't really turn out so well because Sean Smith did not continue his level of play that we saw in Kansas City. They've already cut David Amerson. They could cut Sean Smith. TJ Carey's a free agent.
Yep.
That leaves really only Garyon Conley as the only locked-in corner, and he was hurt for a good chunk of this year, so you could see Oakland throw big money at a cornerback. We've seen Johnson have a lot of success in the NFL. Didn't have this quite the same year that he did back in 2015 when he had 7 interceptions, and that was a fantastic year for Johnson. But back-to-back franchise tags. Now he's looking for more security and, of course, a hefty payday as well.
All right, there's Trumaine Johnson. Let's stick with the Raiders here. Are they keeping wide receiver Michael Crabtree? Tom, it looks like they are leaning that way.
Yeah, pretty likely here. It's only 3 heads because even though it does come from a trustworthy source, wasn't it just a couple of weeks ago, months ago, we saw the reports that said they weren't going to keep Michael Crabtree? So we'll give it 3 heads because I do think that they keep him, but we'll give ourselves a little bit of room because it's not quite set in stone yet. Also, the same report said Crabtree could take a pay cut, which don't know if he's really inclined to do that because my viewpoint is if Crabtree hit the open market, he could get as much, if not more, than the 7.5 he's getting this year. It's a bad wide receiver market, so I don't think you'll see the Raiders cut Crabtree. And I think that's maybe for the best because they are going to focus on Amari Cooper in terms of the passing game, but it's nice to have a guy like Crabtree who Derek Carr likes a lot, even though Crabtree did have some drop issues.
Jon Gruden in town as the head coach, of course, which means changes could be coming to the Oakland Raiders, and they're not in the best salary cap situation either, so we have a reaction poll. Who should the Raiders cut, Michael Crabtree or Marshawn Lynch? Or if you're feeling neither or both, throw in your respective reactions. Marshawn Lynch was kind of tied to some rumors of perhaps getting cut, but actually recent reports are indicating that he's safe too.
Gruden has spoken very highly of Marshawn Lynch, so I think in the end they'll both end up staying. But I don't know how much longer beyond this year they'll be staying. Crabtree's contract is up. Lynch is getting up there in age as well. I don't really know how much more Lynch has. I would keep both. They both aren't overly expensive, and unless you can get a clear upgrade, which you can't, I don't think, do it with Crabtree, probably can't do it running back unless Saquon Barkley falls to in the first round. I think it makes more sense to keep them both.
All right, let's get to news in rumor number 6 here, firmly in the rumor category. A prominent Cowboys player arrested. Tom, this came through the wires straight to us.
Yeah, 2 Goodell heads on this one. We were told by one of our sources that a prominent Cowboys player, no name included, was arrested for either domestic violence or sexual assault. We haven't fully confirmed it, but when we hear things, we like to pass it on to you, but it's still firmly in that rumor category. Again, we don't know who the player in question is, but if this is accurate, it's another bad example of the Cowboys getting themselves into trouble and finding themselves in the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
All right, let's get into news and rumor number 7 here. Rob Gronkowski, is he returning for 2018? Tom, what's the deal?
Well, there's been a whole lot of buzz around Gronk, but at this point it does seem pretty likely, so 3 heads, that he will be back with the Patriots. Rapport says the expectation is that he will return to the Patriots and play in 2018. There had been some pretty notable rumors around an acting or a WWE career. Seems like that's not going to be in the cards quite yet for Gronk, though. Knowing him, I think down the line that will be in a future for Gronk. 2 years left on his contract. I still think this might be a ploy to get a bigger deal and more money guaranteed up front from the Patriots.
Right.
But as of right now, he should be back. Rapport says, by the way, there might not be a grand announcement from Gronk that he'll be returning. He's just going to go about his business and just come back. And
no grand announcement from Gronk? Are you kidding me?
No spike there, sorry.
No spike. All right, let's get into news and rumor number 8 here. Staying in the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins, are they open to drafting a quarterback at number 11 overall?
Again, reminder, this is silly season for the NFL. A whole lot of rumors come out of the combine, but the Miami Herald says that they're hearing quite a bit of smoke here, and it's firmly in the rumor category that Miami could be open to drafting a quarterback. In particular, they came away very impressed by Baker Mayfield when they met with him at the Senior Bowl. They weren't sure what they were going to get from him when they visited, and they were pleased by what they saw, and they like him quite a bit. Still have yet to really fully meet with guys like Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Darnold, etc. But there had been quite a bit of differing viewpoints on this one in particular. I know we've heard from Dolphins fans who say that they're not going to get rid of Ryan Tannehill, but if they went quarterback at 11, that would spell the end of Tannehill's time with Miami. And oh, by the way, one other thing, another source that we saw from this one, Tony Pauline, who we mentioned earlier in the show, says Miami could try and trade up in the draft. And we'll mention that when we talk about some Jarvis Landry trade ideas.
Speaking of Jarvis Landry, he's here at number 9. Do the Dolphins want to trade their star wide receiver? Of course, Tom, they slapped the franchise tag on him. They would owe him around $16 million if they keep him. But what's the deal here?
Oh, look, they haven't come out and said, oh, yeah, we want to trade Jarvis Landry. But there have been multiple reports now that the Dolphins are looking to trade Landry. So it's 3 heads on this one. It does seem pretty likely. And when the Dolphins first put the tag on Landry, it was kind of a surprise. It's like, oh, wait, really? I thought you were just going to let him go. Now you're willing to pay him $16 million a year? And there are many in the NFL who viewed that per Pro Football Talk as a sign that it's not that we're going to keep him. It's that, hey, come make an offer for us. We'll negotiate with Landry, and we'll get a deal set up, and then we can get more in exchange. I do think Miami is looking to trade Landry at the Combine. Maybe they don't do it at the Combine, but I think they're going to try and work out a deal, because they are really tight on cap space, and I don't think that they can actually afford $16 million per year for Landry.
Right.
If they weren't willing to give him 14 or even 12 necessarily, how can they give him 16 a year, even though it's just for 1 year? So I don't know if you're actually going to see Landry play for the Dolphins next year. If you do, I don't think his time in Miami is going to be there for much longer beyond a year.
And the logic being, of course, it could be a placeholder there for the Miami Dolphins to make some sort of move with Jarvis Landry using that franchise tag.
Exactly.